The jungle of Velthar Prime was never quiet. Even in the dead of night, something was always moving, always hunting, always dying. The trees grew so tall that their tops disappeared into the purple clouds above. Their trunks glowed with soft blue light, and their leaves dripped with poison that could melt through armor in seconds. Corporal Taemin walked carefully through the undergrowth, his boots making almost no sound. He had learned to move like the jungle itself, slow and patient. Behind him, 20 alien soldiers crashed through the forest like a herd of frightened animals. They wore heavy armor and carried plasma rifles that hummed with deadly energy. They thought their weapons made them safe. Taemin knew better. Commander Velrak stood at the front of the group, his scaled body towering over everyone else. The Draxian looked like a lizard that had learned to walk on two legs and hold a gun. His red eyes scanned the forest with the confidence of a predator that had never met anything stronger than itself. "Human," Velrax called out, his voice rough, like stones grinding together. "Why do you move so slowly? Are your weak legs tired already?" The other soldiers laughed. They always laughed when Velrax mocked the human. Taemin was the only human in the unit, and he had heard every joke about his soft skin, his small size, and his species' short history in space. The Draxians had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Humans had barely left their planet 200 years ago. Taemin stopped and looked back at the commander. "Sir, the seismic readings are getting stronger. Something big is moving underground," Velrax snorted. "Everything on this cursed planet is big. That is why we bring big guns." He slammed his fist against his plasma cannon. "The mining operation starts tomorrow. If some animal wants to challenge the Draxian Empire, let it come." The ground trembled beneath their feet. At first, it was gentle, like a heartbeat in the earth. Then it grew stronger. Trees began to sway. Small rocks bounced and rolled. The glowing moss on the tree trunks flickered as if frightened. One of the soldiers, a young Draxian named Vek, raised his scanner. "Commander, I'm reading something massive. 2 kilometers ahead and moving toward us. The size reading must be wrong. It says the creature is as big as a ship." "Your scanner is broken," Velrax said. "Nothing that big could hide on this planet." Taemin touched his earpiece. "Lieutenant Haina, are you reading this?" A female voice crackled through the comm link. "I see it, Taemin. The satellite confirms a large heat signature. Very large. It's moving fast now." The ground shook again, harder this time. A tree in the distance fell with a crash that echoed through the jungle. Then another tree fell. And another. Something was coming toward them, knocking down trees like they were grass. "Defensive positions," Velrax shouted. His confidence had cracked just a little. The soldiers formed a circle, their weapons pointed outward. Taemin stood at the edge, his hand resting on his pack. Inside the pack was something he had carried for 3 years, through every mission, across every dangerous planet. He had never needed to use it before. He hoped he wouldn't need it now. The trees ahead exploded into splinters. What emerged from the destruction made several soldiers take a step backward. One of them made a choking sound of fear. The creature was ancient. That was the first thought in everyone's mind. It looked like it had been carved from the stone of the planet itself millions of years ago and had somehow learned to move. Its body was covered in scales that shifted between gray and black, and something that wasn't quite either color. 6 eyes burned like small suns on its massive head. Each eye was as big as a soldier. The creature stood on 4 legs, each one as thick as a building support pillar. When it opened its mouth, teeth the size of swords reflected the blue light of the jungle. "Open fire!" Velrax screamed. The jungle lit up with plasma bolts. Blue and green energy streaked through the air and hit the creature's hide. The bolts bounced off like raindrops hitting stone. One soldier fired a missile. It hit the creature's chest and exploded in a ball of fire. When the smoke cleared, there wasn't even a scratch on the scales. The creature roared. The sound was so loud that it felt like being hit by a physical force. Taemin's teeth rattled in his skull. The trees around them bent away from the sound. One soldier's helmet cracked, and he fell to his knees, clutching his ears. "Graviton bombs," Velrax ordered. "Everything we have." 3 soldiers fired their heavy weapons. The bombs hit the creature and created distortions in reality itself, twisting space into knots. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the distortions faded, absorbed into the creature's body like water soaking into sand. The creature took a step forward. The ground cracked under its weight. "Retreat." Velrax turned and ran. He didn't give the order with any shame. Pure survival instinct had taken over. "Everyone retreat to the dropships." The soldiers ran. They dropped their heavy weapons and sprinted through the jungle, no longer caring about the poison or the predators or anything except the monster behind them. Some of them were crying. Others were praying to their gods. Taemin didn't run. He stood perfectly still, watching the creature approach. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady as he reached into his pack. "Taemin!" Hana's voice was frantic in his ear. "What are you doing? Run!" "I can't," he said quietly. It was old, bound in leather that had worn soft with age. The pages were yellow and covered in handwriting that looked like it came from another world. "I think I know what this is." The creature's 6 eyes fixed on him. It lowered its massive head, bringing its face closer to the tiny human standing alone in the clearing. Its breath was hot enough to make the air shimmer. One bite would end Taemin's life before he even felt it. Taemin opened the book. His hands shook slightly as he turned the pages, looking for the right section. The words on the pages weren't in any modern language. They were sounds from the beginning of time, written down by people who had lived so long ago that even their bones had turned to dust. "Taemin, the entire command is watching this," Hana said. "What are you doing with that book?" "Something I hoped I'd never have to do," Taemin said. He found the page he was looking for. The words written there seemed to glow slightly in the blue light of the jungle. He took a deep breath and began to read. The sounds that came from his mouth weren't quite words. They were older than words. They sounded like mountains grinding together, like stars being born, like the first thunder in an empty sky. The language hurt to speak, as if his human throat wasn't meant to shape these sounds. The creature stopped moving. Its 6 eyes brightened, focusing entirely on the human. Taemin kept reading. Sweat ran down his face. His voice grew stronger, more confident. The sounds filled the clearing, drowning out the noise of the jungle. The creature lowered its head further, until it was almost touching the ground, until it was almost touching Taemin. Somewhere in orbit, on the command ship, dozens of alien officers watched their screens in absolute silence. They watched a human do something impossible. Taemin closed the book. He looked into the creature's burning eyes and spoke one word. Not in the ancient language this time, but somehow the word still carried that same impossible weight. The creature's eyes dimmed to a soft glow. Its body relaxed. And then, slowly, like a mountain deciding to rest, it settled onto the ground. Taemin reached out with one shaking hand and placed it on the creature's scaled snout. The scales were warm. Under his palm, he could feel something like a heartbeat, slow and deep. "Good," he whispered. "Sleep now. I remember your name." The command ship orbiting Velthar Prime was in chaos. Officers from 6 different species shouted at each other across the bridge. Display screens showed the impossible scene below. A human standing next to a creature that had shrugged off enough firepower to level a city. Commander Velrax had made it back to the dropships. His scales were still pale with fear, but his pride was already trying to reassert itself. The human has some kind of device, a weapon we don't know about. That's the only explanation. Lieutenant Hana stood in the communications room at the base camp, her eyes locked on the satellite feed. She had served with Taemin for 2 years. And in all that time, he had never mentioned any special weapons. But she had noticed the book. He carried it everywhere, treated it like something precious. "Corporal Taemin," she said into the comm. "Can you hear me?" Taemin's voice came through, calmer than it should be for someone standing next to a monster. "I hear you." "Hana, what did you do?" There was a long pause. On the screen, Hana could see Taemin sitting on the ground now, his back against the creature's leg. The creature hadn't moved. Its eyes were half closed, like it was sleeping but still aware. "I spoke to it," Taemin said finally. "In a language it understands." What language could possibly work on that thing? Proto-human. The first language. Or at least, a reconstruction of it. Hana felt her stomach tighten. She knew that word. Every human who studied ancient history knew it, though most thought it was just a theory. Taemin. That's a myth. Proto-human doesn't exist. It's something linguists made up to explain similarities between old languages. "It exists," Taemin said. "And I need you to contact someone for me. Her name is Dr. Yoon. She teaches at the Xenopaleontology Institute in Old Seoul. Tell her one of the keepers used the book. She'll understand." "The keepers?" Hana had never heard the term before. "Please, Hana." Hana pulled up the directory and found Dr. Yoon's contact information. The call took a moment to connect across the light years between Velthar Prime and Earth. When the hologram appeared, Hana saw an elderly woman with white hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her eyes were sharp and alert despite her age. "Lieutenant Hana?" Dr. Yoon said. "This is unexpected. How can I help the military?" "Doctor, I have Corporal Taemin on another line. He asked me to contact you. He said something about keepers and a book." Dr. Yoon's expression changed instantly. Her eyes widened. "Put him through. Now." Hana connected the calls. Taemin's voice joined the conversation. "Dr. Yoon, it's Taemin. Student identification number 773. 773. Dr. Yoon repeated. "You were in my advanced xenobiology class 5 years ago, but you never completed the course. You disappeared." "I was recruited," Taemin said. "By the keepers. I've been studying ever since. And you used the knowledge?" "Which creature?" "2. I don't know its species name. It's massive, armored, 6 eyes. It was rampaging until I spoke to it." Dr. Yoon closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "Describe the eyes." "Exactly. They burn like stars. White-hot centers with rings of gold around them. A guardian," Dr. Yoon whispered. "You found an actual guardian. Do you understand what this means?" Hana interrupted. "I don't understand any of this. What's a guardian? What are the keepers? And how does an ancient human language work on an alien creature?" Dr. Yoon looked at Hana for a long moment, as if deciding how much to explain. "Lieutenant, what I'm about to tell you is known to very few people. The Keepers are a secret organization, thousands of years old. We preserve knowledge that most humans have forgotten, knowledge about things that existed before humanity, before most of the current spacefaring civilizations." "That doesn't answer my question about the language," Hana said. "The universe is older than anyone realizes," Dr. Yoon continued. "There was a civilization before all of us. We call them the first ones. They're gone now, disappeared millions of years ago. But they left things behind. Guardians, placed on certain worlds to protect them. And these guardians don't respond to violence or technology. They respond to the language the first ones gave them." "But why would a human language work?" Hana asked. "Because proto-human isn't just a human language," Taemin said, from his position beside the creature. "It's older than humanity. We found fragments of it on Earth, hidden in places so ancient we can barely date them. The keepers believe that the first ones left it there, knowing that eventually a species would evolve that could use it." On the command ship, other officers had stopped arguing and were listening to this conversation. Even Commander Velrax had gone quiet. "That's impossible," one officer said. "Humans have only been spacefaring for 2 centuries. You're claiming some ancient empire chose your planet As a repository for forbidden knowledge? Not forbidden, Dr. Yoon corrected. Necessary. The first ones knew their time was ending. They needed someone to remember, someone to speak the old words when the Guardians woke. Hana looked at the screen showing Taemin and the creature. If this is true, if there really are more of these Guardians on other worlds, and only humans can calm them, then humanity just became the most important species in the galaxy, Dr. Yoon finished. Whether the other species like it or not, a new voice joined the conversation. It was deep and rasping, and it carried weight. This is Sub-Commander Threx of the Draxian Fleet. I remained at a safe distance to observe. Dr. Yoon, you claim these Guardians exist on multiple worlds? Yes, Dr. Yoon said. The first ones seeded the galaxy with them. They're on worlds that the first ones deemed important, worlds with rare resources or unique ecosystems. The Guardians sleep until something threatens the world. Then, they wake. How many worlds? Threx asked. We don't know exactly. The Keepers have records of 13 possible Guardian worlds. Velthar Prime is now confirmed as one. That means there could be at least 12 more. And only humans can control them? Only humans have access to the language. We've been studying it for millennia, passing the knowledge down through the Keepers. Other species don't have these records. Your own histories don't go back far enough. The implication hung in the air like smoke. For thousands of years, the older species had looked down on humanity. Humans were newcomers, primitives who had barely learned to build starships. But now those same primitives held the key to calming monsters that could destroy planets. Taemin's voice came through again. Doctor, there's something else. I'm feeling something from the creature. Like memories. Not words. Just images and feelings. It's showing me things. That's the connection, Dr. Yoon said. When you speak the name, you create a bond. The Guardian will share its knowledge with you. What do you see? Taemin was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was filled with wonder. I see this planet 10 million years ago. The sky is different. There are structures, buildings made of light. And there are beings, but I can't make out their forms. They're planting something in the planet's core. Seeds. Genetic templates. This world is a vault. A seed world, Dr. Yoon breathed. We theorized they existed. Worlds where the first ones stored the genetic information of extinct species. If someone destroys the planet, thousands of life forms are lost forever. That's why the Guardian is here. It's the protector. Commander Velarax's voice came through, strained. We have mining equipment scheduled to dig into the planet's crust tomorrow. If we had started, the Guardian would have destroyed everything, Taemin said. It was already awake and angry because of the preliminary drilling. That's why it attacked. It was defending the vault. Hana felt a chill run down her spine. The Draxian Empire had almost committed an act of cosmic vandalism without even knowing it. They had almost destroyed something precious beyond measure. Taemin, Hana said, can you keep the Guardian calm? If it stays peaceful, maybe we can study the planet properly. Learn what the first ones wanted to preserve. I can try, Taemin said. But Hana, there's something in its memories that worries me. I see other Guardians, lots of them, and I see them waking up all across the galaxy. Something is triggering them. Maybe it's all the mining and colonization we've been doing. We're disturbing worlds that should have been left alone. Dr. Yoon's face had gone pale. If multiple Guardians are waking, and we only have a few keepers who know the language, we don't have enough people to calm them all. Then we need more, Hana said. She was already thinking like a military officer, planning the logistics. We need to train people, find everyone who can learn this language. It's not that simple, Doctor, Yoon said. The language is difficult. It takes years to learn properly. and speaking it wrong could make things worse. A guardian might see it as an insult or a threat. Taemin shifted his position, his hand still resting on the creature's scales. Doctor, how many names do we have? How many guardians can we actually speak to? Doctor, Yoon hesitated. 3. The book you carry has 3 names. The rest of the first one's archive is incomplete. We've been trying to reconstruct it for centuries, but most of it is lost. 3 names. Possibly 13 guardians, or more. The math was terrifying. Then we have a serious problem, Sub-Commander Threx said quietly. Because, according to our sensors, seismic activity just started on 2 more planets in nearby sectors. The same pattern we saw here. More guardians are waking, Hana whispered. Taemin looked up at the sky, toward the stars he couldn't see through the jungle canopy. Then we need to find the rest of the names. Fast. The emergency council meeting brought together representatives from every major species in the Galactic Coalition. Holograms filled the command ship's largest chamber, creating a circle of alien faces, all focused on one question. What do we do about the Guardians? Taemin sat on Velthar Prime's surface, still connected to the meeting through his comlink. Whenever he tried to move more than a few meters away, the creature became agitated. Its eyes would brighten, and the ground would start to shake. So Taemin stayed, feeling the steady warmth of the Guardian's scales against his back. Ambassador Kira represented humanity at the council. She was a sharp woman in her 50s. With gray hair and eyes that missed nothing, she had spent 20 years in galactic politics, always fighting for humanity's voice to be heard among species that had ruled the stars for millennia. Now, suddenly, everyone wanted to listen to what humans had to say. The situation is clear, Kira said, her voice calm and professional. We have confirmation of Guardian activity on 4 planets now. Velthar Prime is stable, thanks to Corporal Taemin, but the other 3 Guardians are actively hostile. The mining colony on Rekar 7 was destroyed 6 hours ago. 3,000 people are dead. The chamber filled with angry voices. Someone demanded military action. Another called for evacuating all contested planets. A third suggested using nuclear weapons. Kira waited for the noise to die down. Nuclear weapons won't work. We've seen the Guardian on Velthar Prime absorb attacks that should have vaporized it. These creatures are not animals. They're technology we don't understand, built by a civilization that makes us look like children playing with sticks. Then what do you suggest? Commander Velrax asked. He had regained some of his composure, though his scales still looked pale. We let these monsters destroy our colonies while we do nothing? I suggest we learn, Kira said. We have one person who successfully calmed a Guardian. We need to understand how he did it, and we need to find more names. A new hologram appeared in the circle. It was an elderly Draxian, even older than Dr. Yoon, with scales that had faded to almost white. His eyes, though, were still bright and intelligent. I am High Scholar Vexrin, the old Draxian said. I have studied ancient history for 140 years. I wish to speak. Kira nodded. Please, Scholar. I have been listening to the human doctor's explanation of the first ones, and their language. It reminded me of something in our own legends. Stories we tell children, dismissed as myths by modern Draxians. We call them tales of the word-binders, beings who could speak to the universe itself and make it obey. The chamber went quiet. Even the angry voices stopped. Our legends say the word-binders vanished long ago. Vexrin continued. They left behind only silence. But the stories claim they chose certain species to carry fragments of their knowledge, species that showed promise, species that might one day be worthy of the full inheritance. He paused, his old eyes focusing on Kira. I always assumed these were just stories, but if humans possess even a fragment of the word-binder's language, then perhaps the legends were true. Are you saying humans are the chosen species? Velrax asked, disbelief clear in his voice. I'm saying Earth was chosen as an archive, Vexrin replied. That much is clear. Whether humans themselves were specifically selected, Or whether they simply evolved on a planet the first ones had prepared, I cannot say. But the result is the same. They have what we need. Taemin listened to all this while watching the Guardians sleep. Its breathing was slow and steady, making the ground rise and fall gently. Through the strange connection they shared, he could feel the creature's dreams. Ancient memories played through his mind, like half-remembered songs. He saw the first ones more clearly now. They were beings of light and geometry, shapes that hurt to look at directly. They moved through space as easily as Taemin walked through the jungle. And they were building something. Not just buildings or ships, but something woven into the fabric of reality itself. Taemin, Hana's voice broke through his thoughts. I'm here, he said. But I'm seeing things. Memories from the Guardian. What kind of memories? The first ones weren't just leaving knowledge behind. They were preparing for something. A test, maybe. They wanted to see if the younger species could work together. The Guardians aren't just protectors, they're judges. That statement sent a ripple of unease through the council. Judges of what? Kira asked. Of whether we deserve to inherit the galaxy. Taemin said. The first ones could have left weapons or technology. Instead, they left puzzles. Things that require cooperation to solve. The Guardians can't be defeated by force. They have to be understood. And understanding them requires combining knowledge from multiple species. That's a nice theory, Velrak said, but it doesn't help us right now. We still need the names. Then we go to Earth, Kira said, to the Keeper's Archive. We bring the best minds from every species, and we work together to unlock what the first ones left behind. The Keepers won't like that. Dr. Yoon's voice joined the conversation. We've kept the archive secret for good reason. Opening it to other species could be dangerous. More dangerous than Guardians destroying our colonies? Kira asked. Dr. Yoon sighed. No. You're right. I'll contact the other keepers. We'll open the archive. But this has to be done carefully. The knowledge stored there isn't just names. There are things in those tunnels that humanity barely understands. Things that might be better left alone. We don't have time for caution, Velrak said. We don't have time for mistakes either, Dr. Yoon shot back. If someone reads the wrong thing, says the wrong word, we could wake something worse than the Guardians. Worse than creatures that can destroy cities? Another council member asked. The first ones had a reason for leaving, Dr. Yoon said quietly. We don't know what that reason was. We don't know what they were afraid of. The council chamber fell silent as everyone absorbed that thought. An ancient civilization, powerful enough to create the Guardians, had vanished. What could make such beings leave? Or worse, what could make them run? Taemin felt the Guardian shift slightly in its sleep. New memories surfaced in his mind. He saw stars dying. He saw darkness spreading between galaxies. And he saw the first ones gathering. Their light flickering like candles in a wind. They were fighting something, Taemin said. In the memories, I can feel their fear. The first ones were afraid. They left the Guardians and the knowledge because they knew they might not win their war. They wanted someone to continue after them. Did they win? Kira asked. I don't know. The memories don't show the end. But the fact that we're here, that the galaxy still exists, maybe that means they succeeded. Or maybe it means the war isn't over. Hana spoke up from the base camp. So, we could be inheriting more than just knowledge. We could be inheriting an unfinished battle. One problem at a time, Kira said firmly. She was good at that, Taemin thought. Taking enormous, terrifying situations and breaking them into manageable pieces. Right now, we focus on the Guardians. We find the names, we calm the creatures, and we save as many lives as we can. After that, we can worry about ancient wars. Agreed, Vexrin said. I will come to Earth myself. I have studied the old languages for decades. Perhaps I can help translate what the keepers have preserved. Other voices joined in, offering assistance. A mathematician from the Veltorian Collective. A physicist from the Zendari Republic. Even a reluctant officer from the Draxian military. Despite their differences, despite thousands of years of conflicts and competition, they were choosing to work together. The Guardian stirred again. Taemin felt something like approval flowing through their connection. This was what the first ones had wanted. Not one species dominating the others, but all of them cooperating, using their different strengths to solve problems too big for any single civilization. There's something else, Taemin said. The Guardian is showing me more. The names aren't just words. They're concepts. Each Guardian has a purpose, a fundamental idea it embodies. This one here, on Velthar Prime, its name means Keeper of Seeds. It guards potential, the possibility of life yet to be born. Can you tell us the name? Velrax asked. No, Taemin said quickly. The name is personal. It's between me and the Guardian. If I shared it casually, spoke it without proper respect, the Guardian might wake angry. Names have power. The first ones understood that. It's why they made the language so difficult. It's a filter. Only those willing to put in the time and effort to learn properly can use it. Then we need more people like you, Kira said. People willing to dedicate themselves to learning an impossible language. We'll find them, Hana said. She had moved to a different screen, already pulling up personnel files. Earth has billions of people. Some of them will have the aptitude. Some of them will feel the calling, like Taemin did. Taemin smiled at that. He had felt the calling 5 years ago, sitting in Dr. Yoon's class. She had mentioned the keepers almost as a joke. A footnote in a lecture about xenoarchaeology, but something in him had recognized the truth in her words. That night, he had searched for them. It took him 6 months to find a keeper willing to talk to him. Another year before they agreed to teach him. And 3 years of study before he could speak even basic proto-human. Now that dedication might save the galaxy. Ambassador Kira, Taemin said. When you open the archive, be careful. The first ones left knowledge. Yes. But they also left warnings. Not everything in those tunnels is meant to be found. Understood, Kira said. We'll proceed with appropriate caution. And Commander Velrax, Taemin continued. Call off the mining operation on this planet. Velthar Prime needs to be protected. The seeds in its core are irreplaceable. For a moment, Taemin thought Velrax would refuse. The Draxian's pride was legendary, but then the commander nodded slowly. The mining operation is cancelled. Velthar Prime will be designated a protected world. It was a small victory, but it felt enormous. A species that had spent 10,000 years taking what they wanted had just agreed to leave something alone because it was the right thing to do. Maybe the first one's test was already beginning, and maybe, just maybe, the younger species were starting to pass it. The entrance to the Keeper's archive was hidden beneath the streets of Old Seoul, in tunnels that predated the modern city by thousands of years. Hana stood at the entrance with Ambassador Kira and a delegation of scientists from 6 different species. The metal door looked ancient, covered in symbols that hurt to look at for too long. Dr. Yoon placed her hand on the door. It responded to her touch, the symbols glowing briefly before the door slid open. With a sound like grinding stone, cool air flowed out from the darkness below. Before we go down, Dr. Yoon said, I need everyone to understand something. What you're about to see has been kept secret for longer than most civilizations have existed. The Keepers have protected this knowledge because we understood it was dangerous. We're breaking centuries of tradition by bringing outsiders here. Please respect what we're sharing. We understand, Doctor, High Scholar Vexrin said. The old Draxian had traveled from his homeworld specifically for this. His scales were covered in a breathing suit that helped him handle Earth's atmosphere, but his eyes shone with eagerness. We are grateful for your trust. The group descended into the tunnels. Emergency lights flickered on as they walked, revealing walls carved from solid rock. The carvings were geometric patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Some of the scientists stopped to examine them, taking readings with their equipment. "Don't touch the walls," Dr. Yoon warned. "The patterns are reactive. We've had people go temporarily blind from staring too long." They walked for what felt like hours, going deeper and deeper. The temperature dropped. The air grew thick, with something that wasn't quite moisture. Hana felt her skin prickle with electricity, or maybe something else entirely. Finally, they reached a massive chamber. The ceiling was so high, it disappeared into darkness above. And in the center of the chamber stood something that made everyone stop and stare. It was a pillar of light, pure white light that didn't seem to come from any source. It just existed, a column of illumination stretching from floor to ceiling. Around it, thousands of stone tablets were arranged in concentric circles. Each tablet was covered in writing. "This is the library," Dr. Yoon said. "Or at least, what's left of it." When humans first found this chamber, there were more tablets. Many have crumbled to dust over the millennia. What remains is what we've been able to preserve. "How did you find this place?" Kira asked. "We didn't. It found us. 5,000 years ago, during the Bronze Age, a group of humans stumbled into these tunnels by accident. The pillar spoke to them, not in words, but in understanding. It showed them images, concepts. It taught them the beginning of proto-human. Those humans became the first keepers." A young woman stepped forward from the shadows. She was in her mid-20s, with bright eyes and ink-stained fingers. "I'm Jiwan." They was no. "Mid is night, I'm Jiwan," she said, bowing slightly. "I'm a linguist with the keepers. I've been studying the tablets for 7 years. Can you read them?" Vexrin asked. "Some of them, maybe 30%. The writing is layered. There's the literal meaning, the conceptual meaning, and the harmonic meaning. You have to understand all 3 layers simultaneously to get the full message. It's why reconstruction is so difficult." Hana moved closer to one of the tablets. The writing looked like a combination of mathematical equations and musical notation and pictures all overlaid on top of each other. Her eyes watered trying to follow the lines. "This is impossible. How can anyone read this?" "With practice and time," Jiwan said. "And even then, we make mistakes. 3 years ago, a keeper tried to pronounce a word we thought we understood. He ended up in the hospital for a month. His vocal cords had been vibrating at frequencies that damaged his throat." "Pleasant," Velrax muttered. Even the proud warrior looked uncomfortable in this place. "The good news," Jiwan continued, "is that we've identified several tablets that seem to contain guardian names. The bad news is they're locked." "Locked how?" Kira asked. Jiwan led them to a section of tablets that glowed with a faint blue light. "These tablets won't reveal their full text unless certain conditions are met. It's like a puzzle. The first ones didn't want just anyone reading this knowledge. They wanted to ensure whoever found it was capable of understanding it properly." "What kind of conditions?" Hannah asked. "It varies. Some tablets require solving mathematical proofs. Others need musical sequences played in specific frequencies. A few seem to need multiple people reading simultaneously in different languages. It's all designed to force cooperation and demonstrate understanding." High Scholar Vex Rin approached one of the glowing tablets. He studied it for a long moment, his head tilted. "This symbol here. I've seen it before. In Draxian religious texts from 8,000 years ago. We called it the sound of beginning." Jiwan's eyes widened. "You can read part of it?" "Only the mathematical notation. It's expressing a formula for harmonic resonance. If I'm understanding correctly, this tablet needs someone to produce a specific sound frequency while simultaneously solving the equation it presents. Can you do that? Kira asked. The equation, yes. The sound, no. My vocal range doesn't extend that low. Vex Rin looked at the humans. But human vocal cords are more flexible than Draxian ones. Jiwan smiled. Then let's work together. You solve the equation. I'll make the sound. For the next hour, the chamber filled with an unlikely collaboration. Vexarin worked through complex mathematics, his clawed fingers moving across a holographic display. Jiwan practiced different vocal techniques, using equipment to measure her frequency output. Other scientists joined in, offering suggestions from their own fields of expertise. Finally, they were ready. Vexrin nodded. The solution is 0.74 recurring, expressed in base 9 mathematics. The frequency needed is 440 Hz. Exactly. Jiwan took a deep breath. She began to hum, starting low and gradually raising the pitch. The equipment around her neck beeped as she hit the exact frequency. At the same moment, Vexarin input the mathematical solution into the display. The tablet blazed with light. The symbols rearranged themselves, forming new patterns. And then, words appeared. In proto-human. Clear and readable. I can read it, Jiwan whispered. It's a name. The Guardian of Crystal Storms. This must be for one of the other active guardians. Can you pronounce it? Kira asked. I think so. But I'd need to practice. This name has harmonics built into it. It's not just spoken, it's sung. How long? Hana asked urgently. The Guardian on Rekar 7 is still active. It destroyed one colony already. On Rekar 7. Rekar 7. Give me 6 hours, Jiwan said. I need to understand the name fully before I attempt it. Rushing could make things worse. While Jiwan worked, the rest of the group spread out through the chamber, examining other tablets. They found that many required combinations of knowledge no single species possessed. A Veltorian mathematician could solve half a puzzle that a human physicist completed. A Zendari color theorist understood visual patterns that unlocked tablets the linguists couldn't touch. It was exactly as Taemin had suspected. The first ones had designed this archive to require cooperation. No one species could unlock it alone. Dr. Yoon watched it all with mixed emotions. She had spent her life protecting these secrets, and now she was sharing them with the galaxy. But she also felt something like hope. These different species, who had fought wars and competed for resources, were now working together, learning from each other, building something new from ancient knowledge. Doctor, Hana said, approaching Dr. Yoon. I've been thinking about what Taemin said, about the first ones fighting something. Is there anything in the archive that hints at what they were fighting? Dr. Yoon hesitated. There's a section we don't go to. The deepest part of the archive. The tablets there are different. Darker. They show images of something the first ones feared. We call it the silence. The silence? A void, an absence. In the images, it appears as a darkness that consumes everything it touches. Stars, planets, even space itself. The first ones were trying to stop it from spreading. Did they succeed? We don't know. The tablets don't show the end of the story. Either the first ones won and left, or they lost. And we're living in the aftermath. Hana felt cold. If it was going to come back immediately, it would have happened by now. The first ones disappeared millions of years ago. We've had that long without any sign of this threat. But... Dr. Yoon trailed off. But what? The Guardians aren't just protecting seed worlds. They're also watching. Sensors. Left behind to monitor the galaxy. If the silence ever returns, the Guardians would be the first to know. And they'd wake up, Hana said, understanding dawning. That's why they're waking now. Not just because of mining and colonization. They're checking. Making sure the younger species are ready. Ready for what? To fight, if necessary. To take up the war the first ones started. Dr. Yoon nodded slowly. It's just a theory. But yes, That's what some keepers believe. The archive isn't just a gift, it's a recruitment tool. The first ones are testing us to see if we're capable of defending the galaxy when they no longer can. Before Hana could respond, Jiwan called out, "I'm ready. I think I can speak the name now." Everyone gathered around as Jiwan stood before the pillar of light. She held a small device that would record her pronunciation and transmit it to the coalition forces near Wrecker 7. A speaker would need to be there in person eventually, but for now, the recording might be enough to calm the Guardian temporarily. Jiwan opened her mouth and began to sing the name. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The sounds were crystalline, sharp like breaking ice but also flowing like water. The chamber resonated with the words. The pillar of light pulsed in rhythm. When Jiwan finished, everyone stood in silence. The recording device beeped, confirming it had captured everything. "Send it," Kira ordered. "Let's hope it works." They waited. Minutes passed like hours. Then, Hana's comm crackled to life. It was a coalition officer near Wrecker 7. The Guardian responded, the officer said, his voice filled with awe. "It's not fully calm like the one on Velthar Prime, but it's no longer actively hostile. It's waiting." "Waiting for what?" Kira asked. "For someone to come speak to it properly, I think. The recording worked, but it's not enough. It needs a person there, making the connection." Jiwan looked at Dr. Yoon, then at the group of scientists. "Then I'll go." I spoke the name. "That's incredibly dangerous," Dr. Yoon said. "So is letting the Guardian destroy more colonies," Jiwan replied. She smiled, trying to look braver than she felt. "Besides, Taemin did it. If he can face a Guardian alone in a jungle, I can do it with a whole fleet watching my back." Kira nodded with respect. "Prepare a ship. Jiwan will leave within the hour." "Reasons. Kira. Jiwan." Kira nodded within the hour. As the group began to organize the mission, Hana looked around the ancient chamber. They had found one more name. Somewhere between 11 and infinity more to go. But they had something now they didn't have before. They had hope. And they had each other. Maybe that would be enough. 3 weeks after opening the archive, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Jiwan successfully bonded with the Guardian on Wrecker 7, becoming humanity's second speaker. 2 more names were unlocked through cooperation between Draxian mathematicians and human linguists. 5 Guardians were now calm, their speakers maintaining the careful connection that kept the massive creatures peaceful. But 7 more Guardians had awakened, and the archive's remaining tablets weren't giving up their secrets easily. Taemin still sat with his Guardian on Velthar Prime. But now he wasn't alone. A research station had been built nearby, and scientists from dozens of species came to study the creature and the seed world it protected. The Guardian didn't mind. Through their connection, Taemin could feel that it approved of the attention, the care being taken with the planet. One morning, a shuttle landed at the research station. A young man stepped out, carrying a guitar case. His name was Minho, and he was human. Hana had found him teaching music theory at a university in New Tokyo. She had brought him here because of a strange gift he possessed. "You're Corporal Taemin?" Minho asked, approaching nervously. The Guardian was sleeping, but even asleep, it was intimidating. "Lieutenant Hana said you needed to meet me. She said you have synesthesia," Taemin replied. "You see sounds as colors, and colors as sounds?" "Yes. It's how my brain processes information. I've had it since I was born." Taemin gestured to the Guardian. "Touch it. Tell me what you see." Minho hesitated, then reached out and placed his hand on the Guardian's scales. His eyes went wide. Oh. This is incredible. It's singing. The creature is constantly producing sound, but not sound we can hear normally. It's deeper than hearing. He struggled for words. "It's a fundamental frequency, like the universe's background radiation, but focused and intelligent. Can you reproduce it?" Minho opened his guitar case and pulled out his instrument. Maybe. Let me try. He began to play. At first, it was just music. Pleasant, but ordinary. Then, he started adjusting the pitch, bending the notes in ways that shouldn't have been possible on a guitar. The air around them began to shimmer. The Guardian's eyes opened slightly, focusing on Minho with interest. That's it, Taemin said excitedly. You're speaking its language without words. You're communicating pure concept through sound. Over the next few days, Minho worked with Jiwon and the other linguists. He taught them that proto-human wasn't just a spoken language. It was multidimensional. Words were only one layer. There was also music, mathematics, color, and something else that Minho called emotional geometry. The first ones communicated on all these levels simultaneously, Minho explained during a conference call with the research teams. When we speak Guardian names, we're only using one channel. That's why the recordings work but aren't perfect. We need to add the other layers. How? Ambassador Kira asked. By combining talents. A speaker says the words. A musician plays the harmonics. A mathematician calculates the rhythm. An artist projects the color sequence. When all of it happens together, perfectly synchronized, we're communicating the way the first ones did. It was revolutionary. And it meant they didn't need to find all the names in the tablets. They could reconstruct them by understanding the underlying principles. Teams formed across the galaxy. Humans worked with alien specialists. Combining their unique perspectives, a Guardian on a desert planet was calmed by a 3-person team. A human speaker, a Draxian harmonic engineer, and a Veltorian who projected light patterns. The Guardian didn't just stop rampaging. It communicated back, showing them memories of the desert world's creation. Each success taught them more. The Guardians weren't just protectors, they were teachers, waiting for the younger species to be ready to learn. And the first one's test wasn't about finding all the names. It was about learning to work together, to combine different types of intelligence into something greater than the sum of its parts. But then the sensors detected something new. The largest Guardian signal yet, emanating from near the galactic core. It was massive, dwarfing even the Krelvath. And it was moving toward inhabited space. That's the first Guardian, Dr. Yoon said when she saw the readings. Her voice was shaking. The archive mentions it. The oldest, the most powerful. It was placed at the galaxy's heart, to watch over everything. Why is it waking now? Velrax demanded. He had become one of humanity's strongest allies in the past weeks. His initial pride, replaced by grudging respect. Because we're ready, Taemin said. He could feel it through his connection with his Guardian. All the Guardians were connected somehow, sharing information. The first Guardian is coming to judge whether we pass the test. And Guardian, what happens if we fail? Hana asked. No one wanted to answer that question. The first Guardian would arrive in 3 days. Every speaker, every specialist, every person who had contributed to understanding the ancient language was brought together at a single location. They chose Velthar Prime because it was protected, and because Taemin's Guardian was the first to be calmed. It felt appropriate that this world would host the final test. The preparation was intense. Minho composed a piece of music that incorporated elements from 12 different species' musical traditions. Mathematicians from the Veltorian collective calculated rhythm patterns that matched the universe's fundamental constants. Artists created light shows that displayed concepts of unity and cooperation, and the speakers practiced pronouncing a name they were constructing piece by piece, each person contributing what they understood. On the 3rd day, the first Guardian arrived. It was beyond description. It wasn't one creature but seemed to be many forms existing simultaneously. Sometimes it looked like a dragon made of stars. Other times it was a geometric shape that hurt to perceive. It was the size of a small moon, and space itself bent around it. The Guardian descended toward Velthar Prime. Every ship in orbit moved to a safe distance. Taemin's guardian stood up for the first time in weeks, its 6 eyes burning bright as it watched the arrival of its ancient kin. The first guardian's voice was not a sound. It was a feeling that everyone experienced simultaneously, regardless of what language they spoke or what species they belonged to. "Show me," the first guardian said. "Show me what you have become." Taemin stepped forward. Behind him stood Jiwon, Minho, Vexerin, and dozens of others. Human and Draxian, and Veltorian, and species that had been enemies just months ago. Now they stood together. "We are the inheritors," Taemin said, in proto-human. His voice carried across the clearing, amplified by equipment that had been carefully positioned. Minho began to play his guitar. The melody was joined by Draxian throat singers, by Veltorian harmonic generators, by instruments from species who had never collaborated before. The music swelled, becoming something no single culture could have created. The mathematicians activated their displays, showing proofs that demonstrated understanding of universal constants. The equations appeared in the air, glowing with light from the artist's projections, and then all the speakers spoke together. Not the same words, but complementary phrases that wove together into a single message. A name that meant unity through diversity. A name that meant the inheritors who remember. A name that was an argument, a proof, and a promise, all at once. The first guardian listened. It watched the lights, felt the music, understood the mathematics. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the first guardian changed. It settled into a single form, something that looked almost humanoid, but made of pure light. It descended until it stood on the ground before the assembled group. "You have passed," it said. And this time, the words carried warmth. The first ones hoped that eventually, the younger species would learn what they knew, that strength comes not from domination but from cooperation. "You have proven worthy." The first guardian raised one hand. Light flowed from its fingers, spreading across Velthar Prime, and then beyond, into space, touching every guardian across the galaxy. Taemin felt his guardian's joy through their connection. All the guardians were celebrating. "We will not leave," the first guardian continued. "We will remain as teachers and protectors. The knowledge of the first ones is now yours to study. But remember, knowledge without wisdom is dangerous." The first ones learned this. Now, it is your turn to learn from their mistakes. "What mistakes?" Kira asked bravely. "They fought alone," the first guardian said. "They believed their power made cooperation unnecessary. And when the silence came, they were unprepared. They defeated it, but at great cost. They left behind us and the archive so that if the silence returns, the galaxy will be ready. Not with one species fighting alone, but with all species fighting together." "Will the silence return?" Dr. Yoon asked. "We do not know," the first guardian admitted. "Perhaps it was destroyed. Perhaps it merely sleeps. But if it comes again, you now have the tools to face it. The guardians will fight beside you. And you will fight beside each other." The first guardian began to fade, not leaving but transforming into something less overwhelming. "I will remain in this system," it said, its voice becoming almost conversational. "There is much to teach, and much to learn from you as well. The younger species bring fresh perspectives. The first ones would have appreciated that." In the following months, everything changed. Velthar Prime became a center of learning, with the first guardian teaching anyone who came with genuine desire to learn. The speakers formed an official organization, not belonging to any one government but serving the galaxy as a whole. Minho's technique of multidimensional communication spread, allowing deeper understanding between species. Humanity's role in the galaxy transformed overnight. They weren't just another species anymore. They were recognized as bridge builders, the ones who had preserved what others had forgotten. But more importantly, they had shown that being young wasn't a weakness. Fresh perspectives and the willingness to combine different types of knowledge had solved problems that raw power never could. Taemin remained on Velthar Prime, now officially designated as the first speaker. But he wasn't the leader of the speakers. That wasn't how they organized themselves. Instead, they were a circle of equals, each bringing their unique gifts to understanding the ancient language and the creatures who spoke it. One evening, Hana came to visit. She found Taemin sitting against his guardian, which had become such a familiar sight that tourists now took pictures. The creature didn't mind. It seemed to enjoy the attention. "Remember when you were just a combat engineer nobody listened to?" Hana asked, sitting down beside him. Taemin laughed. "That was only a few months ago. It feels like a lifetime. You changed the galaxy. You know that, right?" "I just read from a book," Taemin said modestly. "And I was terrified the whole time. That's what courage is. Being terrified and doing it anyway." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Above them, ships from 100 species orbited in peaceful formation. The research station hummed with activity. As scientists from across the galaxy worked together, "What do you think the first ones would say if they could see us now?" Hana asked. Taemin closed his eyes, feeling the Guardian's steady presence. Through their connection, he could almost sense an answer, though he wasn't sure if it came from the creature or from his own imagination. "I think they'd say we're doing better than they did," he said finally. "They were powerful, but they fought alone. We're weaker individually, but we have something they lost: the willingness to admit we need each other." The Guardian rumbled softly, a sound like approval. Hana smiled. "Not bad for a species that only left their planet 200 years ago." "Not bad at all," Taemin agreed. The sun was setting on Velthar Prime, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. The bioluminescent jungle began to glow with its nighttime radiance, and across the galaxy, speakers sat with their guardians, learning ancient secrets and teaching new wisdom in return. The test was over. The real work was just beginning. But for the first time in millions of years, the galaxy had guardians who weren't alone. They had partners. They had friends. They had a future built on cooperation rather than conquest. And somewhere in the space between stars, in the quiet places where ancient things slept, the memory of the first ones rested a little easier. Their children had grown up. Their test had been passed. The galaxy was in good hands. Many hands, working together, exactly as it should be.